All right, we're talking more basketball. He's a machine, but he is really knowledgeable about basketball. Basketball is his first love, and loves basketball more than his own cousin. But that's okay. Kevin, welcome back. We're talking more NBA. We're going to focus on the East. Finally, the East got itself a championship. Now, of course, you can argue Cleveland coming through, but it's been basically dominated by the West.
Absolutely.
When you think about the NBA, the talk at the beginning of the season is who is going to match up against Golden State? Who's going to take them down? And if LeBron is now in the West with the Lakers, no one has a chance. And then Kawhi Leonard and the Raptors come out of nowhere, and now Canada has a championship, right? And of course, now he's with the Clippers.
Right.
But that's not the point. Now that it almost is the point. But now that
balance changed, yeah.
The balance changed, right? Golden State is going to be, I don't think they're out, but they're going to be a little hurting a little bit throughout the season until they get a few players back and they're in full swing, right?
We'll get to that in the West. I definitely have some information about that, but yeah, let's continue about the East.
Let's talk about the East. Kawhi is out. The whole East is now wide open again. When we thought that the Raptors are going to be someone to, if Kawhi stays, maybe they repeat next year, right? But now he's gone. He's with the Clippers. Kevin, who do you think is going to rise up in the East? It's wide open.
Well, let's just think about the standings from last year. So you have Milwaukee. They have the Freak. They re-signed most of their free agents. They did lose their power forward, Navarevich. He actually went back to Europe, so he's gone, which was not too big of a deal. But they re-signed everyone. They did overpay for Middleton, but they kind of had to at this point. So you have Milwaukee still, I would think, number one between them and Philadelphia, and that's honestly my number one and number two team in the East. Toronto, I don't see making the playoffs at this point. Boston, I think, kind of made it a little bit of an improvement. Losing Kyrie was kind of one of those positives by a negative kind of thing. So they got that. They got Kemba. They did lose Horford. Horford's a really good team guy, and that's just how he is. He can spread the court, doesn't shoot a lot of threes, but when he does, he has a pretty good percentage.
Yeah.
You have Indiana, that is actually better than they were last year. They're going to have Oladipo back. He was out for the playoffs, so a lot of people have him as a dark horse, or them as a dark horse. I wouldn't really put that ahead of them. I wouldn't think that puts them above the top two teams, but they could definitely be in the third or four seed, which they were at the 5 seed last year, so that's not too big of a jump. Now you have Brooklyn. I think Brooklyn might make the playoffs, but I don't think they're going to be better than they were last year. Orlando, I think they can make a push, and I'll tell you why I think they can. Detroit, I think, is kind of right where they're going to be. Charlotte's worse than they were. Miami's worse than they were, maybe better, but it's not going to make a difference. Washington doesn't have Wall. Atlanta can make a big jump, I believe. Chicago can make a decent jump, maybe playoffs, but probably not. Cleveland and New York. But when you really think about it, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, Boston, and Indiana will be those main teams. Brooklyn, as they're waiting for Kevin Durant. Maybe next year they have a chance for chasing a title, but not this year. Where I think Orlando could be interesting.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
That's the one team to me that I think can make a trade for Chris Paul. Now, if and when they could do it, because they were interested in Russell Westbrook, which I would have thought that would have been a good plan too. They need a star. Orlando doesn't have a star. They just have a whole bunch of guys that do what they do, but they have a lot of players that they don't need. They have Mo Bamba. He's there. They have some salary. They could actually make it work. I've done the NBA trade machine, that favorite little thing that's online that I love playing with to make trades. They can do it. They can do it. Would they want to do it? And they probably are going to want to pick back too, to be honest with you. They're not just going to want to give it away and go, here, let's go for it. But they probably want to pick back. Nothing probably, I wouldn't think too crazy. But that would make them a 4 or 5 seed, maybe a 6 seed. But that would make them a little bit better than they were last year. They were a 7 seed and lost in the first round. I believe it actually was to Philly that they lost. No, actually, I'm sorry. They lost to Toronto in the first round. I think they won the first game actually against Toronto, and then Toronto just got them the rest of the way.
Yeah.
But that made a jump on everything. But when you really think about it, you have Milwaukee, I think, took a little bit of a step back, but still in that same area. They lost to a Toronto team that was just ready to go, and now Toronto's not there. So you have, I think, realistically, I have Philadelphia. Now you have to really think if Ben Simmons takes that next jump. Now he signed a new contract, or I don't think it's a super max, but he signed like a max contract, and is actually different than almost any other contract. His contract that he signed was specifically if he gets X good, if he's like NBA first team, NBA second team, he makes more money as his skills
So it's
grow.
An incentive, really, to get better and to be the face. And he
specifically wanted this contract. I think he wanted it more of a kick in the rear to be like, I need to be the best player. And he has all the skills to be LeBron James number 2. He just needs to shoot threes. So that's the one thing. And now LeBron James wasn't able to shoot threes like he was recently, up until like 4 or 5 years ago. It was mainly once they played Golden State, when Golden State just shot so many damn threes.
Right.
That's when he took his game to the next level. I would say it was probably in his second year back with Cleveland is when he started hitting threes. And now he can hit threes like a dime LeBron James now. But that's what Ben Simmons is going to have to do. He's really going to have to work on his game to shoot threes, at least perimeter shots. If it's not a three, it needs to be a little bit more out in the perimeter, because what they did in bringing in Horford is now you make the whole paint more cluttered. And so if you have a guy on your point guard who cannot shoot a three, their spacing just gets so much worse. They lost JJ Redick to the New Orleans Pelicans, so that's going to make it difficult. So they really need to work on him shooting threes. They really need to be able to have players around him that can hit threes. Now Horford can hit threes. Joel Embiid, he can hit threes, but they're not going to be 3-point shooters or anything like that. They're good 3-point shooters. They're just not great. They need some really good 3-point shooters around them, because they did lose Jimmy Butler. He went to the Heat. So now they lost a little bit of that 3-point shooting specialist. So that makes it a little bit harder for him. But if he can really work on his shooting, and that's going to be the biggest thing. If he can work on his shooting, he'll be great. But think about it even too, is the Greek Freak, he doesn't shoot a lot of threes, and he was just the MVP. So if Ben Simmons can get the MVP, then they'll be a lot better. We just have to see. We have to see what happens.
I think in the East, for me, in my opinion, I just think Stevens is the best coach. And I think the Celtics now they don't have Kyrie anymore, correct?
Correct. Yeah,
I think that was the best thing for them. I don't think the chemistry was really working. I don't think Stevens was able to get a hold of who Irving was, and Irving was trying to figure out himself as a leader. Could he do that? Did he want to be? And so I think the Celtics were better off without him to begin with. So I think the Celtics for me are the team of the East that could kind of reclaim that spot. And we could see a Lakers-Celtics type of rivalry back in the finals, which is something I would love to see.
That would be interesting. Now, the thing with that head coach from the Boston Celtics is he coaches more team basketball.
Yeah.
And Kyrie Irving was not a team basketball kind of guy. It was, let me do what I do. Because think about it. Take away Kyrie, you take away the 2 stars that they had and say, hey, we're undermanned, but we just got to work together as a team and do the best we can. They went all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals, and they lost to a team with LeBron James, and you can't really doubt too much on that. It is what it is. They were undermanned.
They were undermanned, but there were times in the series they could have been in the finals.
They could have been in the finals, absolutely, without those players. And everyone just assumed, now you bring those 2 guys, now they're unstoppable. Yeah, and that's what, I thought that too. I mean, a lot of people were fooled because of it, but that wasn't the case. Now they get to play with more team basketball, and then I wonder where Tatum goes, because Tatum had to take a back seat in this season, and his numbers went kind of backwards. But I really think a lot of people do that he can take that next step.
Give him the lead. You play team basketball. I think it's something we don't see a whole heck of a lot in the NBA, because you're your stars. You need your 2. You need your 3. And I think Stevens can coach that. He proved that in college with Butler, with going to the finals and going up against teams like Duke. And I think he's transitioned to be a really good coach, team basketball on the NBA level. So I'm looking for the Celtics. You say Orlando could be the team coming out of the East.
I don't think that they're coming out of the East, but I think it's a team that can make a jump, and it just matters. They will not make a jump unless they make a move. They're going to be exactly where they were. They're going to be a 6 seed at best, 6 or 7 seed, if they stay where they're at. So they have to make a jump. It's the same thing that I was talking about. You don't want to be at the bottom end of the playoffs or playoff seeding at the 7, 8 seed. You need to be a little bit above that. Now, being a 5 seed, you have about a 50-50 shot. You don't have home court advantage, but you have a 50-50 shot. If you steal one game, it all changes, because it's not like 8 seed's really hard. It's only happened a couple times that 8 seeds beat a 1 seed, because it's very difficult.
Right.
Not only do you not have home court, but now you're playing a team that should be significantly better than you, unless injuries or something happens. So they need to make a move. They need to look at what they can do, but they definitely don't have a point guard. I think Augustine's their point guard, and he's more of a 6-man, 7-man, 8th-man kind of player. He's a good player off the bench, but he is not a starting caliber point guard. So they need to be able to move forward on that, and I can't think of too many starting point guards. And Chris Paul has a lot of left in the tank, but he's not MVP Chris Paul that we knew 4 years ago.
Right.
But he still can bring a lot of leadership and experience to this team. And honestly, Chris Paul hasn't really done too much. He's been able to get to the conference finals, I believe, once with Houston, I believe, and then they did it.
Right.
No, actually, he didn't. No, he's only gotten to the Western Conference semifinals. I don't think he actually got to the finals.
Close.
Not quite there. So he needs to get something, but he is in the right direction.
Okay.
And they're the only team that I can think of that can absorb that contract and actually benefit from it. So.
All right, so the East off the top of your head, and we're going to talk about the West because the West is kind of blowing wide open with the whole Kawhi Leonard situation and the Clippers and the Lakers, and we'll talk West next. But off the top of your head, who do you see as a guesstimate that will be in the representing the Eastern Conference in the finals next year?
I'm saying Philadelphia. If I had to put money on it, I would definitely put Philadelphia. Now, I think everyone kind of took a step back. That's the thing. The things on the top teams did take a step back. But Philadelphia just has too much talent. As long as Embiid, though, that's the only thing, is health. I mean, that means for everyone. If LeBron James goes out, then the whole team goes to Ricochet. If Anthony Davis goes out, the whole team goes to Ricochet. Kevin Durant went out, and then they weren't the same team. So, but with Embiid healthy, with Ben Simmons healthy, those are the main two guys. If you can keep those guys healthy, they have a real shot to either win the whole thing or get close. Because if that shot didn't go in for Kawhi Leonard, let's say they go past the round, let's say they beat Milwaukee, right, which they could have, they would have beat Golden State. And then we would have been talking about the Sixers winning their first championship in a long time. So, I'm going to go with Philadelphia.
I'm going to go with that. I think that's a great pick. I'm just going to go a little bit different. I think the Celtics have a chance. They can get their team effort together, and Stevens can get everything back in motion of 2 years ago. I think they have a chance to challenge the Sixers, but I think the Sixers are a very solid pick in the East. So we're going to talk West though, because there's drama there, and we all thought the Lakers had it. And looks like the Clippers going to be coming out of nowhere. So we'll talk about that next.